This Coach Human here. We're back for a Wednesday podcast, and we're going to talk some softball today. I'm here with Coach D as always, and we're going to dive right into it with University of Texas A&M Texarkana. That's a mouthful in itself, right there. Wow, head coach Coach Colwell. So we're excited to talk to her today. A little change of pace, talking some softball. So I'll dive into that, what that whole world is like, especially from a recruiting process standpoint. So welcome, Coach, to the podcast.
Thank you guys so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Um, if you could go into just your whole background as a player and as a coach, and kind of what took you to Texas A&M, Texarkana, and that kind of journey.
So I grew up super small town, country girl. I grew up on 200 acres, super small town, and I knew that my family was super blue collar, and I knew that the only way that I was getting out of that small town was through athletics. So I used my athletic ability and skill set to get a college scholarship to go play softball. And so I started out as a young Division II athlete, and being from a small school, I was like, geez, I have no idea how to study. So I bumped back down to JUCO, and the 4 year was just almost like it was too much for me in the classroom setting. So I bumped back down to JUCO and had the time of my life as a JUCO player. And so JUCO bandit through and through. So I started out there. And then my junior year, I transferred with my associate's degree to go play at Texas Women's University. And we went to the College World Series for the first time in school history. So that was super fun to be a part of. And then after that, my coach decided that he was going to leave to go start the program at Texas A&M Commerce. Um, and so I actually followed him to Texas A&M Commerce, which is East Texas A&M now. But I started my master's degree there, and that's kind of my playing career. I ended at Texas A&M Commerce and with a master's degree in athletic administration. And then I started out teaching and coaching at the 1A level in Texas. So 1A is the lowest of the low. It's also the tiniest. And so tiny that the elementary and the middle school and the high school was all in one building. So
Yeah,
we had high school students walking next to elementary kids in the hallway.
it's a hell of a
Um,
dynamic. Now, where
yeah.
we're from in Jersey, that's just some type of lawsuit waiting to happen, right? Like that's just kind of what it is, 100%. It's a little different in Texas, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
that's a problem here.
I'm trying to paint a complete picture of, like what I grew up with and what it
Yeah,
was like
yeah,
in
yeah. It's
Texas
Yeah,
as a
great.
no,
school
it's
boy.
totally understandable.
So I taught chemistry, IPC, and physics my first year out
Oh,
of,
damn. She's
yeah.
like really teaching, Dave. Like that's like that's not rolling out a ball in phys ed. That's not like we're teaching. Holy shit. Okay.
Yeah, so chemistry, IPC, and physics. I was also head softball. Essentially started the program there. And then I was assistant volleyball. We went to the state championship, won a state championship my first year of teaching coaching, which is crazy. And then I was assistant junior high basketball. So that was my first year, and I was in my master's degree. So my time management skills had to be,
Wow.
Yeah, talk
yeah.
about a loaded plate.
So, and I think back to all the responsibilities that I have now, and I think back to that version of myself, and I'm like, Haley, come on, this is cake compared
Right.
to, what you did your first year of teaching coaching, and second year teaching coaching was essentially almost the same thing. But
Right.
um, when I left the 1A job, I got a promotion to school called Whitesboro. Taught and coached there for 5 years as a head softball and physical education teacher. Then after there, my career took me to South Texas, El Campo. I think we went to the playoff, won a undefeated district championship, and went to the fourth round of playoffs the first time in like 22 years. So that was a really cool experience. I taught personal finance there. So,
Well
um,
rounded.
and then after that, I went to Amarillo, opened up a brand new school there. The logistics piece was really tough. If you've never opened up a new school, you know that there's all kinds of different logistic pieces and things, and get the culture on point. And so from there, I got a JUCO job, and so I was a head softball coach at the junior college level for 3 years, which led me to meeting our head coach here, shaking his hand randomly because my Jeep decided to have issues and at a tournament one weekend. And so, in a roundabout way, networking standpoint, met my head coach when my Jeep broke down. I was like, "Hey, coach, think you can help me?" And then we've been really good friends over the last 3 years. And now I'm the recruiting coordinator at Texas A&M University, Texarkana. So, and I teach kinesiology courses here as well.
Wow, really cool. That's quite a what and the Texas A&M Texarkana, is that D2 or is that
We are NAIA, and
NIA? Okay.
so we're actually in the transition to go Division II Lone Star,
Okay.
which is the mecca of,
Yeah.
Division II. That's where you want to be.
Right.
But we're slated to, I think, be full time um, in that conference. I think in 28.
Okay. Very
So
cool.
there's a 2 or 3 year kind of transition period. But yeah.
Very cool. Quite a journey. Wow. Quite a journey. It kind of shows, what it is when you start to really climb the ladder as a coach, and
Yeah.
the different things that have to get done in order to do that. Talk about as far as, so, kind of paint a little bit of the recruiting landscape at the level you guys are at, and from that standpoint, so people can understand within softball.
So everyone wants to talk about Division I. Everybody wants to talk about Division I this, Division I that, but there is other divisions: Division I, Division II, Division III, and then NAI. There's also, I think, a separate independent one that's called NCAA, I believe. So there's different levels of play, but I think through the recruiting piece is not every kid is going to be a Division I athlete. Not every kid is going to be able to play at that level. And so from a recruiting standpoint, I always like to have the conversation of, where do you see yourself being able to play realistically and getting the degree and playing under the coaches that fit your skill set. If, like today's age, a coach can leave and then your freshman year, and then now what? Did you go to that school specifically for that degree plan or the level of play? Are you going to transfer? And so I think a lot of times kids pick schools based on the wrong reasons, like facilities or money, things like that. Where back in my day growing up, I just wanted an opportunity, and the coaching fit was pretty important to me. I didn't care about facilities. It's whatever, but today and age, I feel like facilities are important. And yeah, just at the NAI level, the rules are a little different as well.
Yeah, it's something that we talk, because we talk a lot more football and whatnot, and it's different too. It's where we are in the Northeast, right? There's a lot more Division III programs, and that's kind of like it's a bigger aspect to it. Whereas if you move more to the Midwest, you're getting into that NAIA world. But you're 100% right. Student athletes, male, female, high school kids, like, they don't want to hear Division II, Division III. Like, they only want to talk about what they see on, the bigs of the bigs, right? The Power Fours, or, your Oklahomas of the world, like, like those big time programs that they're seeing. And if it's not Division I, then they, almost turn a blind eye to it. Whereas the majority of student athletes that play at the next level are going to be at the non-Division I level.
Yeah.
And I think that's why, we love having, quote, lower level player coaches on to kind of talk that world out, because most people are uninformed about it, and they just don't understand that the level of play is still on like an incredible level. everybody at
absolutely.
that level was still the best player on their team for the most part. You're still going, and especially now with the way NIL and transfer portal and all of these things where kids are bouncing around or dropping levels or going up levels, like the recruiting world has changed. Like that decision for 40 years, like, hey, next 4 years for the next 40, like that's not the case anymore. Like you referenced earlier, a coach may now leave and go somewhere else, and they might take you with them as a player. I mean,
Yeah.
there's just so many different roads now that we're seeing. How do you kind of swing that when you're talking to recruits and they're kind of, you're an NAIA. I know you're going to Division II, but, I still feel like, I should be playing at this level. How do you kind of sell that, Haley? Or, how do you swing that? How do you paint that picture that, look, this institution is where you need to be?
So I think being a JUCO head coach really set me up for success on the recruiting piece of it, and just being able to have the experience of, going through the ringer as a JUCO, head coach. A JUCO coach has to recruit
Huh,
14, 15 kids every single year.
yeah.
And so the
On
three
top
years
of
that I
God
was
knows what
there,
else.
yeah, so like having those recruiting conversations constantly for 3 years straight, now it somewhat makes my job a whole lot easier because I can go after better athletes. I can go after the athletes that are on these national teams that um, want to go play at a 4 year. And the conversation is, hey, sure, you could go D1 and sit the bench for a year and a
Yeah.
half, 2
and
years.
never and never play. Like,
Or you can go D2, maybe have the opportunity to play in a few games, or, you can come to NAI, work your tail off to be a starting player in the lineup, and possibly you're so athletic, you know what, you may be able to be an All-American.
Right.
So if you paint the picture like that, I mean, we're a top 25 program. We went to the World Series last year in NAI. And so it's all about the marketing aspect and how you can sell these kids your program specifically. My head coach and I are really big on how do we market and brand our softball program specifically, rather than them going down the road to another Division II school an hour and a half away and competing for a national championship. What makes our school going to be different competing in the same conference rather than them driving an hour and a half? You know what I'm saying? So it's all
yep,
about just like the branding, and then just bringing the kids on visits and saying, being at the facility and saying, like, really visualizing it for them. Do you think you could see yourself playing and coming to school at Texarkana? If
right.
you can't see yourself sitting in these classrooms or being our starting shortstop at this facility, then maybe it's not the best fit for you.
That's I think that's 100% spot on. And we talk about it all the time, coach. Like, look, one is it's got to be the right fit, regardless for both sides, right? Like, you're not trying to force around, a round peg in a square hole, right? Like let's not do that, right? Like, let's be open, let's communicate, let's understand. Look, this is what Texas A&M, Texarkana is, right? Get on campus, be, boots on the ground, see the classrooms, see the facilities. And if it's not for you, it's not for you. But for the most part, we try to preach it to our guys all the time. You got to get on campus. You have to actually physically be
Yeah.
there. Don't just go off a whim, especially with social media now. Kids got, the national level, I think, of recruiting across the board, right? Like, irregardless of level. I mean, guys can see something and reach out to a school on the other side of the country where they would have never had that opportunity or done something of that nature ever, right?
Yeah.
Now with the modern age, like, that's just kind of what it is. Teams, look, you see conference alignment at the highest levels are now national, right? Like, it's not really geographical as much. I think boots on the ground is a big, big piece to it. But I also think this is what it is. This is what we have to offer, right? The transparency, I think, is big. I don't know if every coach does it that way. And I'm like, they don't, right? And that's just truth. Like they just don't. Some people negatively recruit. They just do it a different way, and that's okay. If they can sleep at night, that's on them. They'll be judged at some point. You know what I mean? But I just think the open, honest transparency of the whole thing is such a big piece of it. And then also, like, you have to push what your standards are, what your goals are, right? As this is our staff and this is who we are. And
Yeah.
they have to be comfortable with that too, because a lot of that, they think the sport is the main thing, and it's really not. It's
Yeah.
not. It's a very little piece to it. Like, the sport is the easy part, right? We
Well,
can
and
coach all the softball stuff.
that's I that's kind of like my MO is like softball and a scholarship opportunity should just be a vessel to being and going out in the world and doing whatever it is that you want to be successful at career wise. Like softball is just a tool to get you to where you want to be and who you're about to become. It's just a vessel. It's just another step in the ladder for you. Just
Right.
continuously like developing as a young female mom, spouse one day.
Right.
And when kids come play for our program, they're going to get that out of me as an assistant coach is one, believe in themselves, and I'm going to give them the tools specifically to fuel their bodies properly. The strength and conditioning workouts are going to, prepare them to be better athletes on the field, and just the mental game of it, just working through, the schedule of being the demands and the schedule of being a college athlete and maintaining your academic scholarship. Academics is another crucial piece to being at NAI. There's a lot of money out there if you
Yes.
have a good GPA.
Yep. And
If
that's,
you
I think,
have,
and that's multiple sports, Haley, right? Like, when it comes
yeah,
to the kid, like, especially at non, like, everybody wants to see athletic scholarship, and oh, okay, here it is. But at those lower levels, it's about piecing together those other avenues to get that money. So
yeah,
many parents, so many kids overreact when it comes to, oh my goodness, that's what it costs. And it's like, that is not even close what you're going to be paying. We're going to figure this out. But you have to have put in the work in high school and have that GPA or that ACT score or that SAT score, or look, hey, we're going to go find you these other avenues or money, these streams that can now take that sticker price and
yeah,
lower it. And look,
yeah,
and this is also something that's constantly being reevaluated every year. The better you do, you pull a 3.7 GPA, I can give you more money.
yeah.
Like, those are the things I think that people need to be more aware of. And if we had this conversation yesterday, Coach Schumann and I, with, look, if you're a parent and you're really invested in your child, then you're going to go do that extra homework and find out about these other ways of doing things in order to make it work for your kid, because you want to put them in the best position. But it does take some work on your end that you have to go and do, right?
Yeah.
There's only so much that you can do, that a coach can do, that Coach Shu or I could do. I think that's another piece of it.
I think also, just to kind of segue off of that, since we're talking about academics now, is you have FAFSA that you can apply for. You have those like you have two different types of avenues of FAFSA. You have the FAFSA that's like the money that you don't have to pay back.
Right.
And then if your family income is essentially maybe less than 100K a year, you may qualify for a certain amount of FAFSA that you don't have to pay back. If And then on the flip side of that, the other piece of FAFSA is the subsidized and unsubsidized loans. That's
Right.
another piece of it. And then you break down, if your family signed up in Texas, we have what's called Hazelwood Act. And so if your family registered in the military, you may qualify for, Hazelwood Act money. Well, that typically pays for a certain portion of your tuition. If your family is divorced or you have multiple siblings, and you're going back to your family income, that can directly relate back to the FAFSA and just get you more money essentially. And then you throw in like the GPA. If your
Right.
GPA is above 3.5, typically the universities will give you maybe 5 to 7K of academic money just straight out the gate.
Right.
If you have a solid 4.0, we have what's called a presidential scholarship. I think that's
amazing.
around like $9,000 straight out the gate.
Right.
And then with honors, if you're an honor student, you're in honor classes, maybe that's an extra $1,000. We had that at
Right.
JUCO, and we have this
And
here.
that's, I think, the difference is because you're piecing these together. It's not just here's your scholarship, right? And
No.
that, I think, throws people off, right?
Well, and
just,
I think that since I grew up so blue collar and the knowledge was not given to me, in today's age of, just like the financial state that our country is in and the people are struggling, you have to really be able to piece all the puzzle together for these families and make sure it's like the best fit
right.
for the
Because it's
family,
also,
not just
you
the
don't want
kid.
to, and you don't want to put something out there for them, and then all of a sudden they finish, and all of a sudden they have this debt, and you're like, whoa, like, wait, I didn't sign up for this. It's like, well, it was in this or it's that, like, you know what I mean? Like, we see that kind of aspect of it too. So there's two sides to it. Ultimately, I think if you're trying to get the best players in, like, money is going to be a factor to it, irregardless. And I also think at a school like yours, where it's smaller, but if I'm not mistaken, this will be they're starting a football team, correct?
Yes, we are.
So, Dave, how often do we talk about football drives, students coming into a school, irregardless of whether they're playing the sport or not, to just grow it? Because who doesn't want to go see a football game on Saturday, right? Like, when there's other things to do. So for you guys,
I'm not sure, although I'm not sure at the NAIA level.
They're going in. I
Public
think they're
school,
going.
which it's a bigger school, I'm assuming, right? Because it's not the size of regular Texas A&M, but like it's still a public school. I don't know if that's
They're going in at a Division II level.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. So our football program, I think, will essentially roll out. Like they're in the process of building brand new turf, baseball, softball,
fall 2027. I think it's coming out.
Yeah,
and
so
they're in that Lone Star conference that you had talked about.
Yes.
Coach, I got a question. So, from a recruiting standpoint, what is kind of like the landscape for you as far as areas that you guys really reach out to and reach for, and are you is the high school athlete like your primary focus from a recruiting standpoint, or do you do I mean, I know the NIA doesn't have a transfer portal per se. I think they more like just release them from the school and then they can do whatever they want. But or is it like you bring in transfers from other schools? Well, talk about that part of the process for you guys.
So since we're in the process of going Division II, we're trying to recruit athletes that can play at that level. We NAI, like I said, I was talking about, we have some D2 and D1 transfers who, may sincerely be all Americans at our level. And I think like as long as the kid is happy with, where they're at, I mean, like there's no ceiling to their success. But I will say, like, we do have some D1 kickbacks, D2 kickbacks. We have JUCO transfers, and I mean they're all quality kids.
Everybody's path is just different. Like, you don't know everybody's story either. You know what I mean? Like, that's always a big part of it.
Right now, I think we have 5 or 6 true freshmen on the team, and everybody else is, we're pretty transfer heavy. We like, since I came from JUCO, we like to recruit transfers because they're
What's a typical roster size, Haley, for a college softball program of yours? What's a typical roster size in terms of total athletes?
So we're required to bring in 30.
Okay.
But by the end of it, quit, fail, cut. I mean, it just kind of
depends. Like, like never see you again. Like, hope everything's okay. Like,
we understand.
Well, one of the things that I've been really thinking about, I want to let you expand on this, is that athletes who are coming up from the high school level, because transfers are obviously readily available between JUCO JUCO, transfer portal, those kind of things, that the high school athlete has to a lot of times be someone that could come out to the field and be ready to go in their first or second year. Otherwise, potentially, right? There's no such thing as like, hey, maybe like 6, 7 years ago, hey, this person might get there. If we do a lot of things, can get their junior year. Or like, is that true that if they're a high school athlete, their level for Division two has to be good enough that you could see them possibly being a starter in their first or second year?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we have some true freshmen that will probably be starters in our lineup this year, not because they came in, like playing on, the best of the best teams, but because we've developed them, and based on their work ethic and their skill set that they've worked their tail off to
Right,
get. Nothing is given to these kids.
right,
And so putting in the extra reps before practice and after practice, and just being a fun and coachable kid at
right,
practice is a huge piece. The personality is a huge piece, for me in general. And so, yeah, I mean, like there's freshmen that can come in and they're going to kick ass and they're going to be in our starting lineup. But it just, again, it's just all about what what they do and how they do it.
right, right. And no, I think it's a really good point. Like, is I see more and more like when high school parents, and obviously I deal with mostly football, but I see across the board, in a lot of the sports, especially like the big, 3 or 4 sports, which on the football, basketball, men's, women's softball type of deal. You know what I mean? Men's baseball, women's softball. So from that standpoint, it's like you know uh, the way that parents view what their child's level needs to be at, and where a college coach views what they need to be able to offer. Right? I see you smiling,
Yeah.
so you know what I'm. There's a major, I think, a disconnect. Now, that's not the disconnect in the transfer athlete, because they've already been in either JUCO or at a college, so they already know what they're failing at and what they've been successful at. And if you're actively recruiting them, they possibly fit the skill sets that you need. But the parents at the high school level do, in my experience, and and I see it's more and more. They do not understand the level that college athletes are at,
Yeah.
and they don't understand that for their high school athlete to be a contributor at the college level or even be recruited, that their athlete has to be what you're talking about. They have to have that physical capabilities, but they also mentally have to be at a level where they're going to be able to come in and be around women who are competing, right? Like every single day. And otherwise, you probably say, "Hey, man, you got to start a JUCO, you got to start a D3, and
Yeah.
then maybe you'll come see me in a couple of years." But talk a little bit about that. Am I correct on that? But
Yeah.
yeah, I'll let you speak. Go ahead.
So, um, I always like one question that I typically always ask the recruits when they're on campus or I'm having phone conversations with them. Like, we recruit kids across the country, Canada, like everywhere. Like, there's no set zone for us. Like, we get kids that email us from
Right.
everywhere saying, hey, you have this specific program, engineering, yada, yada, yada. Like, for us in general, we're one of the top 3 nursing programs in the state. So like
Amazing.
our kids have jobs typically before they walk the stage for graduation. So like our programs are prestigious. Um, and it's not just about athletics. So when we're selling the program to these parents, oftentimes I feel like the parents are just like, what is the dollar amount? Like they don't care
They just want to know a
sometimes,
sticker price. That's it.
how much is this school going to cost me, not like how can. It's very, sometimes it can be very transactional, and I'm
Yep.
not a transactional coach. I'm a transformational coach. And so
Yep.
when it comes down to like those conversations, yeah, money talks, right? But
Damn right.
what can your athlete accomplish while she's here, and the development piece, how will she grow and develop over her 4 years with us as a student athlete, right? And that comes athletically and on the mental game aspect of it. um just I'm just a huge like holistic piece coach, and so it's like I coach the whole athlete, not just the softball athlete. um
It's great,
but on
great
the
point.
It's a
Yeah, keep
phenomenal
going.
point.
Keep going. Yeah.
for the parent side of it, I really just like to ask them, what's your budget? Like, what are you realistically willing to spend? And then try to, well, just me as a high school coach, thinking
Right.
back,
Right.
Right.
what is realistically, like, this is how much this school typically costs in Division 2, or this is what a JUCO costs. You need to, the earlier that high school coaches or select ball coaches have those type of conversations, and that the parents keep hearing it, like the buzzwords, or like kind of mentally preparing themselves that, like, oh crap, like it's not just their junior senior year of college,
No.
of high school, and they're like, shoot, this school is going to cost $25,000 a year. Like,
Right.
they have to be, um they have to hear it multiple times before it just
It's
actually like sinks in. You know what I'm saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sometimes you feel like you're banging head against the wall, like, hey, we talked
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
this, and I think that's something too that's in the recent years, it's kind of gotten even younger. Like maybe, a couple of years ago, you could have gotten away with that a little bit as to waiting
Yeah.
longer in the process. But with the way social media is now, and I mean, look, you're in softball, which the travel ball world is a beast, right? And the girls are getting quote ranked and seen at younger ages, and you have these national tournaments of like parents now. Realistically, like this process starts when you identify. The sooner you can identify that your son or daughter is going to be a next level athlete, like, well, that's where you need to already start putting it away and just
Yeah.
understanding that the more time I have to bank some of this stuff, the better situation we will be in. Even if it's, you're hemming and hawing of, I don't know if she's going to be that level or he's going to be that level or if this is going to happen, but I'd rather err on the side of caution and start taking those necessary steps to put us in a good situation rather than be late on it and then all of a sudden have to throw our hands up like, hey, what are we going to do? We're not in a position to help or do anything.
Yeah. And I think like just, you have like these orgs who have, these player development roles, and just having their head coaches in the select ball world, like having those type of conversations, and like presenting to these parent seminars that, like, hey, a Division 1 school is typically going to cost this much. This is, unless your athlete is like 5-star straight out the gate,
Right.
Right.
like just
Yep.
phenomenal, like the players essentially
Like
at
it.
OU.
Yeah. We
Yeah,
talk about
you
it
know
all
what
the
I'm
time.
saying?
Because in football world, it's the star world, right? Like the 5 stars, the 4 stars, like those higher level guys that you already know are quote unquote scholarship power 4 guys. Like
Yeah,
this doesn't pertain to them. Like
yeah,
they're not in this category. It's
yeah,
the majority of everybody else, right? Because that's the biggest percentage. Only it's not what we see all of, right? We see the smallest percentage that goes big time, and that's what everybody wants to focus on, or they think that's the norm, and it's not really the case. The biggest
hmm
percentage is the ones that go Division 3 or NAIA and have to work for it and need to piece together scholarships. Like social media kind of skews that a little bit.
yeah. And I think just on the parent and the athlete side of it is like a lot of times the parent and the athlete aren't on the same page.
Oh,
Right.
So
Right.
that creates
that email
even
being sent to coach
more.
behind the players, back
Yeah.
sometimes, right? Because hey, when we get an email, it's like, hey, my son or
That's a
daughter
great
doesn't know that this is happening.
talk about that, because that's a great point. So this is one of the things that, like, when I talk to parents on the football side, that they have a hard time getting. So when they're like, why don't people recruit high school athletes the way that they did before? Why are they taking older athletes that are transfers? What is the reason? And one of the things I try to get them to understand is that even though your teenager technically is a teenager, right? He's a kid. They're not. It's not an apples to apples recruiting process. Meaning, this is right. This is the 17. I'm looking at you, 17-year-old athlete, versus the 20-year-old athlete I can get over here, the 21-year-old athlete can get over here, who I'm not at this point even dealing with the parents. I'm talking to her directly, and she's telling me what she can afford, what she can't afford, what her goals are, what she wants to study. She kind of knows this already, right? Because she's already failed a little bit on some of these things or succeeded, right? And the parent is still driving most of the stuff in the high school. So the parents have to figure out in a very quick and look, I understand that it's not a fair process,
It's
compared
not.
to what it was in the old days. I get it. I'm not saying it is, but the more they help their athletes mature from the standpoint of understanding what they want, it creates less variables for you to bring them in, right? And that's ultimately what it comes down to is because you could see, they have to look at it like this is your job, okay? You succeed or fail as Texarkana succeeds or fails, right? And so does your head coach. And that athlete is part of that process. But if that athlete is unsure, because the parent is unsure, and I have this athlete over here who's just like, hey man, just give me hey woman, just give me an opportunity, right? Like just give me an opportunity. You've seen what I could do. Like I could come in and help you pretty quickly. That's a part of the process that it's a reality of the world. Like I said, this is not about a fair or unfair thing, and parents talk about like what you would like them to understand so they can help themselves from that standpoint. Because I think the transfer athlete, whether you like dealing with transfers or not, but that what you're getting for the most part. You can know, oh, this person's been at 3 schools in 2 years, what kind of individual you're probably getting if you take them. If this person was looked over, passed over for,
Yeah,
and all of a sudden has developed physically. Um,
that's a
or
good point, Dave. You know what I mean?
yes.
Like, I think we as coaches understand that a little bit, right? Like we can decipher through if a kid's been at 3 schools in 3 years, why, and whether that reason is a bona fide, understandable, like I get it reason, or is it something else where there's some red flags there? I think that's a really good point that you bring up.
Yeah, talk about how parents could start to, at the high school level, eliminate as much of that variable and prepare their daughter as much as possible to eliminate that variable from a mindset standpoint. So you come in and when they come in to see you or they go to a camp of yours, they already kind of are presenting themselves in a manner that you're like, oh, all right, like, hey, I'll recruit this high school athlete. This is a pretty mature young lady. Go ahead, talk about it.
I think it's all about how the athlete presents themselves and how they carry themselves and how they exude confidence. Like growing up for me, I've always been told like I have a presence when I enter a room. That's just me. That's who I am. And so when I look at these athletes at these camps, and I want to have an athlete that has a presence when she is on the field or in the clinic or in the camp. Like I want a kid that can talk one-on-one and tell me specifically what she's looking for. I like kids who come up to me, can shake my hand, look me in the eye, and have the conversation piece. Not just come up to me, shake my hand, and be like, hey, here's my player profile. See you later. Can I take a picture with you? That's not that's transactional.
Right.
That's not what I'm about whatsoever. And so I like to get to know the kid. If I like a kid, I'm pulling them aside and getting to know them on a personal level. Hey, where are you from? What's your grad year? Make sure you talk to me at the end of camp. Just like I like your energy, like I'll compliment them. Kids these days, they don't know how to carry on a conversation without being here.
Oh, that's that looking at you in the
And
eye.
they're not service minded either, too. So
Yeah.
whereas,
Great point.
I believe that a lot of it is going way back. So because of the transfer portal, because you can get adults to come in and compete for you, it's going back to all the way back to like when I was in high school. When I was in high school, okay, there wasn't as much information out there, and athletes that got recruited really were mature athletes. Okay, the ones that got scholarships were mature athletes that wanted to compete. Not that the difference was they were more developmental back in the day, but they were much more mature because there wasn't as much information out there where you can fake your way through the process. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is a lot of the athletes do a lot of this stuff now. I got a card I'm handing you with my highlights. Like, okay, we know. Like, all right,
Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
we got
what?
we got it. We got it.
we,
You
we
know what
got it.
we
You have a
did?
highlight tape.
Right.
Back
So
in
does
the
everybody
day,
else.
You
it's
know what we
crazy.
did back in my day? We the way that I got recruited, I played on a select ball team, and you know what? We set up a video camera. And I had to introduce myself. Hi, my name is Haley Colwell. I am from SNS Consolidated, Sadler, Texas, class
Yeah.
of 2010. And you did that in front of a camera, and it forced you to show your personality and your skills. And you were talking throughout the YouTube video, and it was uploaded on YouTube. We didn't have Sports Recruits and all these other kinds of fluff
Mm,
apps
I
that
love it. Fluff. I love it.
honestly are so annoying these days.
mhm.
Just pick
Right.
up the phone, call me, text me, email me. I am very old school when it comes to that standpoint. If me and the head coach see your name popping up on our email or on my phone, 9 times out of 10, guess what? I'm going to remember you.
Correct. How do you stand out? How do you separate yourself from the thousands of guys or girls that kind of do this and just, the mass text or the mass
Yeah.
direct DM of, hey, here's my highlight tape. Here it is. Like, and just
Well,
like most of them don't even go and change the name of the coach, right? They make it so generic that it's not even personable. But for me, and Haley, we're all very like-minded in that aspect of personable, and to me, you win with people and all that kind of stuff. How do I, if you're someone that separates yourself just in that aspect of making it more one-on-one and individualized, and you send a text or a message, like if it's more personable, or you pick up the phone, like you're going to stand out more. So
yeah.
right away, you go to the top of that list. That's already God knows how many names long. We talk about it all the time that coaches are looking for a reason to not recruit you, not the other way around.
Yeah,
How do I
absolutely.
cross you off the list? Because you're already on a list. You know what I mean? Like you're already there. So how do I get you off of it so I don't have to deal with it? Or I just don't want, you know what I mean? Like that's
And I
it's
think
the angle. It's different.
the even bigger thing is, and the other thing that like it kind of like I've been on the football side without ever being a college coach because I like basically invented the for the good or bad of it. I invented the combine system back in not the actual combine, but like I was the first to scale it around the country. I had over 100 events, and
For the youth
I
athlete,
seen
right?
that rise and fall. You know what I mean? I seen when like I had I still watch like about 20% of the NFL is still guys that came through my programs, but like at one point it was like almost half, and there was a kind of a rise and a fall to that whole process. And I seen so many athletes, and I remember when that went to the transactional mode, when transactional mode worked, okay, to get recruited because transfers wasn't as big of a thing. And if I was good, people had to recruit high school and they had to go earlier, like younger, I mean. And then I seen it all shift. So I've kind of all seen and I've seen the parents' mindsets all the way. The parents went from, I couldn't wait to meet you to get recruited to why aren't you recruiting me? Okay. And they kind of held all the cards, high school athletes at one point. And then transfer portal, it took a couple of years, but once coaches started to get hip to that kind of the game, I could deal with an adult like, oh my goodness, like it's actually even better than dealing with an adult. You're dealing with a person who's about to really become an adult, who's kind of starting to become awoken to what they want to be, which is actually really good because they're still kind of coachable like a high school kid, but they're more mature like a regular adult, like a pro athlete almost. So And now the parents were still stuck in you need me mode when they didn't
Yes.
need you anymore. And we're at this point now where, I always tell them that you got to build a relationship. That's always been through the process. But now I'm in the point where I say to them, hey, listen, like your job is to seek out the relationship with the college coach in high school. It is no longer their job to seek out the relationship with you because they don't have, if they really just said, you know what? I can't find enough high school kids I want. I'll just go right into a portal and grab every single player I want. Literally
Yeah.
every single player. I know what I'm going to deal with. I know that I might have to deal with some headaches. I get it. But
Right.
I know what I'm going to deal with. And that's an important part to me that, and college coaches are trying to say to them, but you guys have to recruit, right? So you don't want to like kill dreams and all these kind of things. But like I'm like, hey, your job is to do exactly what you said. Make that video so they know your personality. Now you meet them, shake hands, and ask a couple of questions about the school. Ask a couple of questions about their program so they actually think you actually have an interest. Not like you're just passing through Texarkana on the way over to whatever other school, because I just don't know all those areas over there. But whatever next school is within the area that's, a Division two. I would love you to kind of tell me at least, is this something that you think that the athletes need to start developing their own model for their own plan? It's not just going to every camp, or I don't know if perfect game is a big deal in softball or not. I know it is in baseball, but going to every perfect game thing or whatever it is, and do talk a little bit about that if you can.
So when I was a high school coach, there since I've coached in every region essentially in Texas, I feel like I have really good relationships with athletic directors in the state of Texas, like Texas high school football coaches. And then typically they are the ADs, and then
Right.
break it down to the high school softball coaches. And so whenever I was a high school coach, I would always ask my athletes, like periodically, like, hey, who's your top three schools? Hey, who's your top five schools? What camps are you going through this summer specifically? And a lot of times their parents would just sign them up for a massive amount of camps, and then that the kids didn't even want to go to. And so again, just being on the same page and asking your kid, like, hey, is this school realistically like where you want to go play at? Sure, go to certain big Division 1 schools for the experience, but also have in the back of your mind, like, hey, I'm probably not going to go here. Are we going to be able to afford to go to this camp? And vice versa. And just break it down and make it more realistic to pinpoint, all right, this summer, budget wise, we have the amount of money to go to 5 camps that you want. Who are your top 5 schools? If they offer us camp and it works with our schedule, we can go to those camps. You know what I'm saying? And so just being like very intentional with the schools that you're pursuing
Mm.
and actively seeking out opportunities for camps, and that they will specifically be at. And then also on the flip side of that, the athlete has to do their homework on the schools. I get to these camps all the time, and athletes ask the questions like, do your then there's a group of like 10 coaches, and they're like, does your school have a great nursing program? And they're asking everybody. And so it's just like, girls have to do their homework on
Yep.
school specific to be in their top 5. Sure, sophomore year, freshman year, have a top 10.
Yes.
Doesn't even have to be realistic. By your
No.
junior year, maybe break it down to top 8. By your senior year, you should have a top 3 of where the heck you're going. If not, the fall of your junior year, because that's National Signing Day, correct? But just being realistic with what you're pursuing and the degrees, so that you're not wasting your time, and the parents are being realistic with themselves about what they can afford and the avenues that they're pursuing, that's huge. And so I just think that the more intentionally based the recruiting process is, and the more personable you are. Lastly, parents and kids don't know how to negotiate. So if we specifically ask, hey, what's it going to take to get you here? We want numbers. We want specifics. We don't want, oh, well, I'm just waiting to see, other offers. Like, no, if we're a top three, top two, we want to know what it is specifically to get you here. Otherwise, we're moving on. Like, this is a business, you know? And so learning kind of how to negotiate and be completely transparent, like, hey, I can afford this extra $1,000 a semester, you know what I'm saying? And so we can probably make it work if we want the athlete bad enough. But a lot of times the parents and the athlete are just kind of leaving us hanging. Like at the JUCO, it happened to me a lot. Just leave me hanging when I was very direct and asked us questions. And so just knowing where your budget stands, what the degree plan, being intentional about the programs that you're pursuing that you could see yourself playing at, and just kind of honing in on your personality and like who you are as your brand. Don't try to be anything else. If you're not a shortstop, don't go practice at shortstop at the camp. If you're not a power lefty and you're just a slapper, don't try to be a power lefty on the clinic side of it. Just show up authentically of who you are, who your family is, and what you're representing, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. By the way,
Yeah.
hey, I don't know if you've heard of this, but like I saw this great video on. They don't have it yet out. I don't think for softball, but they came out with this. I'm like a tech sports tech freak person. So, but Wake Forest just posted a video about this traject. Have you seen this yet? This traject system that just came out, and Wake Forest is the first to have it. It's basically like a hologram. Like if you were playing like a certain pitcher, and you'd be able to take that person, project them as a hologram, and then it comes out their exact movement, and then the ball comes out in the same exact way they throw. It's crazy. It's crazy.
That's
You should look
cool.
it up. I just saw it. I just saw it before we got on. I actually retweeted it. It is crazy. Like baseball and softball have some of the craziest, awesome technologies on some of these things. But it's like it basically allows you to go through. I can't imagine what it costs, by the way. I can't imagine, but it allows you basically to simulate the game pitching in a batting cage environment. Is that wild, Derek?
I look amazing. At it's funny because you see AI and you see the technology aspect creeping into whatever sport it is, right? And it just so happens that Texas Tech has upped their ante when it comes to that aspect of it. Like, I mean, we're talking literally a video screen that's as wide as a football field where you can line up and see a defense coming at you and doing all these other kinds of things. But I mean, technology is just constantly helping our game evolve. It's really wild, especially like that's what these kids are into, right? Like for as much as we still love taking notes and writing shit down on a piece of paper, like they want to be able to just, type it up, send it, whatever, talk into their phone and just here it is. You know what I mean? Like, so the old school, new school mix of it, I think adds a certain level of desire to go to certain places. Right. So I think coaches that embrace that, and we've seen some coaches shut it out, right away. And that kind of takes kids out of it.
Yeah.
College sports is when I was in business school.
Coach has his MBA, by the way, Haley. Like he's got it all. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
nice. That's awesome.
And it's for Coach too. Like just a little bit of his background.
An additional wasted 30 credits above the
MBA. He won't say
MBA as well.
Coach is different in the fact that he's never been in education. Like he did his student teaching. He did all of that stuff, but like never went and was a teacher. So he was a coach that was, kind of outside the building, but coming into coach, right? Which gives for me working with him, it's given me an eye-opening experience. Someone who was in education, you know what I mean? Like I've now seen both sides working hand in hand with it in terms of the approach. Like
I look at a lot of things through the like business competition aspect, meaning like almost through like I don't want to say capitalism, but because it's not exactly that, but like but business competition, right? Like if you don't have that many competitors or you squeeze them out, you're really going to have an advantage. If there's lots of competitors and there's less potential for an advantage is it works towards a thing called, well, in business, they call perfect competition, which means that nobody has any real overall advantage, right? So what with the transfer portal and NIL and all these things have kind of introduced potentially in the long run, not in the short run. The short run, there are certain groups that have more money, right? And so they're going to have competitive edges. But in the long run, this whole thing is working towards at each level, a level of what I would call perfect competition, meaning that everybody is going to have like the tools to make you the very best you could be athletically, right?
Yeah.
Like there's only, like there gets to a point where there's only so many advantages things and everybody will have most of them. So now it's like, what can you do to squeeze this little bit of competition advantage out of it? And at Division One level, certain places have more money, but eventually those places that all have more money will all just be competing against each other. And that will create a certain level of competition between them. And then the level below will have that at their level, and your level will have that at your level. And so what that ends up happening, the transfer portal has introduced that to high school athletes, which high school athletes don't realize is what's going on. Meaning the quote unquote perfect athletes are now available, but older to them.
Yeah.
Whereas before, the warts and all athletes who, like, I don't know all the softball terms, but let's say like, the physical athlete that you're like, oh, they need to work on their hitting technique, or now you can look over at a transfer and see an athlete that's kind of doesn't even have to have those physical tools, but already there in those things. And
Yeah,
I
I
think that
think
that's what it's creating, that kind of world. It doesn't matter whether we like it or don't like it, right? But that's the world that it's creating, which I think as a coach is super exciting. Like as a person that's a coach, that's super exciting because you're like, how can I squeeze out a little bit of a competitive advantage over them? You know what I mean? How can I squeeze that out? It's super exciting from that standpoint. But athletes don't understand that on the recruiting side. You know what I mean? They don't understand that. So that's kind of where my mind goes. I'm just kind of giving you like how my mind goes and kind of where I kind of always like see things from. It doesn't make me right. It's just how I see it. And that also why is kind of I've always kind of seen a little bit around the corner because I'm not stuck in like the bureaucratic world of like what I'd like it to be.
yeah.
But anyway, but I don't want to keep you too much longer. I'd love for you to kind of talk a little bit more about finish with like what your kind of overall recruiting philosophy is, and what you kind of really are honing in on, and then we'll let you go. But I can't thank you enough for coming on. It's phenomenal stuff, and I'm sure Derek feels the same way.
Yeah, for sure. So my recruiting philosophy is just pretty easy. And I think like it's just constantly evolving too. Like I was talking about earlier, is just being personable and like liking kids who are coachable and fun to be around, not like energy vampires. I'm going to go after the kids that exude confidence in camps and have a presence at these clinics, or their footwork. Sure, skills is like top. Okay. If you hit a bomb and you're, 5'2", 115, yeah, I mean, yeah, you probably got it going on a little bit, but the skill is definitely a driving factor. And then you break it down of like, okay, character report. I'm going to pick up the phone and I'm going to call the athletic director or the high school coach. Select ball coaches these days, they like to fluff everything. An athlete can be one athlete, or an athlete can be one person at school and high school, and I've seen it. And they can be a totally different athlete and student at the select ball. So I try to get character reports on both ends. And so sometimes what I also do is I call other coaches in the district or the conference and say, how did this kid act? What do you know this kid, and things like that. So I'm getting the full picture character report on the type of player that kid is going to come into our program and typically be. Um, and then on the academic piece of it, there are going to be kids that have the lower GPAs that are just the absolute ballers that we are probably going to take a chance on, but we're going to have systems in place that
I
level.
mean, hell, you teach kinesiology, so shit, like
Exactly. And so if an athlete is a good mover, they're going to have the upper hand when it comes to the softball skill development and being able to just develop over a 4-year span. So yeah, that's kind of like holistically everything that I look for. And I do have like a holistic approach. I do like, don't get me wrong, I love the ballers, but it just goes a little bit more deeper than that, than just being a total badass softball player.
No doubt about it. And I think that's an incredible, way to approach it. I think that, what you're doing is phenomenal. It's also awesome seeing your rise and what you're doing. So I can't thank you enough, Coach, for coming on today.
Yeah, like I said, I appreciate it. And if anybody, has questions about recruiting, you can email me at hcolwell@tamut.edu. You can also find me on Twitter, the Coach Colwell, or Instagram.
Perfect. Thanks, Coach,
Coach, thank
for
you so
everything.
much.
Have a
Appreciate you
great
guys. Thanks for
All
having
right.
me on.
Bye-bye.
Awesome.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Excellent stuff. Excellent.
Did pretty cool stuff.
Yeah. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed having her on.
Hell of a rise, dude. Like, could you imagine doing all that? Like,
No doubt. I mean, I think that so
she also gets
one,
that unique perspective, Dave, from being in the JUCO world.
I'm sorry, just being in the
That unique perspective of being in the JUCO world. Look, we say it all the time about guys that have certain backgrounds or whatever, like coming from, a small town, smaller than ours probably, which is unbelievable to even think about.
although she grew up in 200 acres.
Holy shit, buddy. Like, that's phenomenal. But to also and then high school, look, was even at a new school that created it, right? So she came from like literally the ground up, and then the JUCO world, and just navigating the NAIA world, and now transitioning a program, where she has a little bit of that background on literally program building from nothing, because she did it at a high school, right? Like, she was part of that, to now taking an NAIA to a Division II. Like, we understand that there's a program that's established or whatever, but taking it to a different level. And like she said, the cream of the crop type Division II level in Texas, like, that's a transition where, look, like, her head coach is very fortunate to have somebody like that on staff who's plugged into it and can kind of give that feedback moving forward to kind of grow that thing.
One of the things that I've become to this revelation in the last month or so, and you probably noticed that I haven't posted any showcases at all.
Right.
And one of the reasons why I haven't posted any is because the 6th, 7th, and 8th, and 9th, and even 9th and 10th realm, and 11th from a recruiting standpoint, the parents are so off base as to understanding of what's going to happen. There's such a disconnect that I can't even have a conversation with them anymore. So I don't even want to get into like, what is this camp going to do for me in recruiting? I don't want to get into it because it's going to do nothing. That's the bottom line. I want them to understand that. Like, and when you tell them that,
like, it's not going to move the needle. Like,
they're not going to sign up, right? So
correct.
So I'm not going to waste my time in getting into this conversation, okay? Because if you're a 10th and 11th athlete or a 9th grade athlete, and you're really that good, you already know it, okay? You already know it, all right? Because I could stand next to you, and you're my height, and you're as athletic as I am like already as a ninth grader. So, there's this kind of like disconnect. And so I started researching a lot of the things that coaches are saying. I posted one yesterday from a Maryland coach, but
Yeah,
I
I
started
saw that. I saw that a while ago, which is, like why I've been saying literally that for the longest time is if you're not a 2D player, you ain't getting a scholarship, dude. Like,
yes. And it's beyond that. It's even more so because they don't want to, they're trying to be stern without alienating you, I think.
right.
So, which is their job. I mean, that's the job as a coach. They don't want to alienate you because you might end up being that guy. So,
right. Or get that reputation, right? Like you don't want that to follow you around
like
and all that kind of stuff.
He's just
right. You
mean.
don't want like he's a dream killer. You know what I mean?
I want to be the dream killer. Okay, on some of these things.
Unfortunately, I think for the most part, Dave, the way we
and I was the dream starter originally. Okay,
yeah,
so
you come to my like, hey, you ran a really good time, like at this thing,
you
like
have
here
a
we go.
chance. Yeah. So here, I don't want to be. I mean, the word is, I guess, dream killer. But here's my thoughts on it. My thought is parents are always and because of this, the kids, they're all about me, and what I want. Okay. Now that worked under the system when I had all the camps, when the high school athlete was the priority and earlier was even more the priority. Okay. That was what became, it really was never okay, but it was allowed because of the fact that they needed high school athletes. Okay. You have to know what the marketplace is. If you're selling a Model T and people are buying Teslas, okay, you can't sell a Model T and expect people to buy it. Well, high school athletes are selling a Model T, okay, and that's the problem. They're selling a Model T. I can become this. I was this. I was all state. I was blah, 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 blah. Nobody gives a flying FUCK about it. Okay. Nobody cares. I don't care how many touchdowns you threw for. I don't care how many yards you rushed for. Okay. Are you an elite athlete that can run certain times, that could jump certain heights, that could throw the ball this far or hard? Okay. Have this elite mindset, and can you come in and compete right now for a job? All right. If those answers are yes, and are you, what she said, coachable? Like, are you going to look me in the eye? Are you going to listen? I don't need you to listen. Can Trent Williams and the 49ers, I was so glad they got their asses kicked because he walks out there with the fucking music with the N-word blasting over and over again.
Flipping people off and all this other bullshit.
If I was a head coach of that, I'd be like, really, what are you compromising in your world? Like, can you at least blurt that out, since all the people that have to hear it as you're coming into the stadium, you sound like a moron. Okay. But you know what happens? I was so glad that, even though I picked them, by the way, I was so glad they got their ass kicked. So I think about it like this: high school kids go and do this, and the college coaches just say, I'm not dealing with this. Okay. I'm not dealing with it. If I'm going to deal with it, I'm going to deal with it with a man that's 22 years old who I know can actually play the game.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Right.
So
and
then I'll deal with it.
You just don't have the timetable anymore to develop like you used to, right? Unless you're at a program where the understanding is, look, like it's literally in your contract that, hey, you have 4 years to turn this thing around, right? Like for the most part, like I can't wait that much. I don't have that much time. I have, especially with the, you see on the highest level, like with what Signetti did at Indiana and how fast these guys are turning things around. It's there. So now, what do I do?
There. And the other thing is, the one good thing that will happen for high school athletes, and you said this like here or there, they are going to be forced to either make better decisions or they just are not going to play in college. Period. End of story. Okay. And parents are going to be forced to figure out what do they want out of a college experience. All right. Now, again, what is the percentage of those 4 and 5-star athletes that are that good that are still going to get offers? It's very few. And a lot of them are failing at the first place they go to. Okay. So I take this kid over here. They are not Malachi Tony. I'm sorry. Like Malachi Tony.
Who there's rumors out there today that he's entering the transfer portal.
I was just going to say, and he's in the transfer portal.
Well, but listen, I already did my research and it's not true.
Okay. Well, so my point is this. my point is this. Malachi Tony is like so far above most of these kids. Same thing with the other running back. It's like they don't even understand like you know, and it's not just athletically, mentally wise. Okay.
Right. Oh yeah, so, maturity wise, dude.
And yeah, yes, there are. So everyone's making a mistake at the high school athletes. They're like, I'm a really good athlete. I'm a really good this. I'm a really good that. And why am I not getting recruited the way you are? Dude, I could see the questions that the parents ask me, and I could tell you why you're not getting recruited. Okay? My kid's in this bullshit All-American game over here. Why does he have an offer?
They don't understand.
Like, it's a bullshit All-American game.
Right. Like, look, Saban
now
did us a favor.
The game. You should enjoy the game.
Did you see what Saban said this weekend about the Stars? Did you see what Saban said about the Stars?
He's 100% right.
Spot on.
I said this back in 2005.
You said it a lot.
What the fuck does Mike Farrell know? He's a slapdick who never played a fucking game. Okay? And I love him. I love him because he did a great job and he took his career really far. But give me a break, dude. Give me a break.
There's a thousand. Look, it's very different. The landscape of that world is so different than when you were coming up and you created the market and everybody went to Dave Schuman's NUC All-American. Like everybody knew that was the standard, that was the staple, and it was.
And Rivals had one, and
that's what I'm saying. But it was signed off on, right? It was. Look, it's like having. Compare it to Twitter when you have a verified blue check, right? It used to be you actually I had to do something to get it, right? Not hey, here's $11.99. Give me my blue check.
I gotta pay for fucking Instagram checks and bullshit checks for this bullshit and that. Like
this guy won't open the message.
Everybody's a fucking creator. Yeah. Everybody's a celebrity.
It's just like when we talked to Mike yesterday with the training world, dude. Everybody's the receivers coach. Everybody's a this. Everybody's a that. Like now, to circle back to what we've kind of been focusing on the last couple of days of like, look, if you're a parent that really understands and wants the best for you, you'll do that extra homework to see through that bullshit. But it's very hard when that's your algorithm and that's all you see it. And he has a million followers, right?
And here's the thing. Because there are transfer athletes, okay, even if those kids are 5-star type athletes in high school, it's not that 18-year-old is not as good as the 22-year-old, okay? Your 18-year-old self, my 18-year-old self was not as good as my 23-year-old self physically, okay?
100%.
Physically. All right. Like, I'm not saying, I might have run the same 40, 4 years later because the training wasn't probably the best way back then. Maybe I didn't get any sprinter faster than I was in high school, but physically I was bigger. I was stronger. I understood the game. I told you,
just more mature.
You knew the game when you came into college, which was your advantage, one of your advantages. I didn't know shit. Okay. I was just an athlete that was big, strong, and fast. Okay, I could do everything, but I was an athlete. All right, and I was able to do those things. I was a mold of clay. All right, if I was that person now without having to even though I had a great mindset, which would help, which was
huge piece of the puzzle.
I was a very good student. I had a great mindset. I had a West Point appointment. I could have went there.
You had the ability to understand. Look, that
went to the Ivy. So I had a great mindset as far as.
But how many times have you heard me reference my coaches or my program at a very young age, teaching me the game beyond what it was. And then going to Sacred Heart, sitting on the bus after that first loss, or sitting in those meetings as a freshman with other guys around me going, wait, what do you mean you don't know
You
what
were
cover 4
mature
is?
enough to be
But
able to contribute at the level you were at right away. I was mature enough to be able to contribute within those right away. I had an injury, otherwise I would have probably played as a true freshman. But I could tell you my class. Okay, I'm just thinking of like the 18 kids. The 18 or 19 kids from my
dude, I
squad.
remember guys playing D line that were like, I don't know what a 3-tech is.
You know how many kids were. You know how many of the kids of the 19 kids that came in with my scholarship group, or 20 kids that came in my scholarship group, you know how many of them were around when I was a senior?
Right. How eye-opening was
There was
that?
only like 6,
Dude,
okay,
I'm
left.
telling you, in the
My
one year
seniors
I
were
was
3 or
there,
4 transfers,
in the one
with
year I
us.
was there, Dave, I watched us go from 20, like we probably had 17 to 20 freshmen that came in. And I'm telling you, Dave, by spring, I don't know if there were 10.
That's
Like,
my point. So
gone.
no coach wants to go through that with high school athletes anymore, okay?
Right.
They do not want to go through that. The 19 kids, and like I said, my senior class was probably 10, ended up being about 10 at the end, or 11. But there was 6 or 7 from my initial class, and the other seniors were transfers that came in from other schools, right? They were a part of our senior class. So it was one of the things I learned from that is, and my defensive coordinator used to say this all the time. Nick Rapone just retired from the NFL. He used to say, many start, few finish. Okay.
Yes.
So if many start, if that's actually 100% true, which it is, all right. If many start and few finish, why would I risk my $1 million job on that philosophy of recruiting? Right? Think about
Yes.
that. So you have to so if I know that many start and few finish, I'm going to take that few finish risk with a 22-year-old, because at least that guy, if that guy F's up, at least I could show you that he was a man. Okay.
Yes.
I communicate with him. He may not have agreed with me. He may have disagreed, didn't like it. Then he bounced out of there. But at least I'm talking to a man. When I'm talking to a parent and a 17-year-old, okay, I am talking to a kid and a parent who sees their kid as every parent should, okay, that they are the greatest thing since sliced bread. I see my kid that way. You will see your kid that way, okay? And no matter how good you are, as like with my own kid, when I talk to him, I don't talk to him that way. Even though I see him that way, I know I have to talk to him in order for him to be successful, as if I don't see him that way. Because even though from like an interaction personally, we interact that way, but with respect to sports, because I cannot allow him, with respect to sports and academics, by the way, I cannot allow him to go and just walk around and feel like he did enough. Because if he does feel like he did enough academically or athletically, they won't push. And what happens is, at the end of the road, which is at the end of high school, they look up and they go, oh my God. That's exactly what happens to every player now when they end up landing where they first land.
Absolutely.
They go, oh my God, I didn't do the things I needed to do.
Right.
That's the revelation they have. And then they either say, you know what, I'm not going to play in college because, I'm just going to go be a student, which is okay. Or they say, I'm going to now, where I'm at, do whatever it takes to be better and figure that part out. But every one of those athletes come to that point, okay, because of what happens. And parents, maybe they come to that point, or so most of the parents, I just think
they do, but it's late.
I think it's when they actually get into college, because I think parents, when they're in high school, have seen all the accolades they got, and they just think they're getting screwed. Okay. And
I also think like that.
and
Like
by
for
the way, do
parents,
they get screwed? So it's a process screwing them. Yes.
sucks.
Okay. But you got to know the world you're in, dude. If I was a programmer 30 years ago and I built websites, my value was through the roof. Now, any Tom, Dick, or Harry can build a fucking website. Your value is very little. Okay. So unless you're doing something advanced, your value is very little. Okay. I could go pay someone from India $100 to go build me a website. It'll be up tomorrow. All right. So that's an important point. Meanwhile, when I was first came out, we were charging $300,000 for bullshit, what would be considered bullshit now. Okay. So you have to know what market you're in, and knowing what market you're in, and I'll let you talk because I know you were about to chime in. What market you're in is so important, and the parents are, and the kids should be ignorant to it to an extent because they're young, but
Right,
the
right,
parents
right,
have to
right.
seize that. Like, they have to be like, you cannot be ignorant to this. Let me explain this to you. You're a 6 foot 280 pound offensive guard. You're not going to Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, I don't care that you're first team all state. I don't care. Like, I don't care that you blew everybody off the ball that you played against. I don't care. You're 6 foot 280. Oh, well, let me talk. Jason Kelsey was 6 foot 280. All right, let's explain Jason Kelsey's
Right.
world.
They
He
want to
was
compare themselves to that
he was a tailback in
0.2%.
high
Like,
school. He was a fullback in high school. Who carried the football, who was a great athlete, who played lacrosse. He wasn't a guard from the get-go. You know what I'm saying? Like, he evolved because he was such a good athlete, wasn't good enough to play fullback to get a scholarship, moved to center because with his athleticism, now moving down to the line. I was a safety in high school. I mean, give me a break. Like, I probably should. I always said this. I was a linebacker. I was getting so big at the end. I was still the same linebacker, but I was 6 feet 235. I probably should have been a defensive end or 3 technique by the end if I really wanted to keep moving up. You know what I'm saying? Because my speed would have been much more even valuable there, right? So these things, parents don't understand that this is how it works at the competitive nature. If you're a gymnast, you know this early. You know this at 10. Okay? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. You could argue them as a figure skater, a tennis player. They know this at 12, okay? At 14, because guess what happens to the best players that are tennis players at 14? They go pro.
yep.
You know you're just a college tennis player, and you could immediately make decisions at 14 years old. Okay, doesn't mean you don't win junior tournaments. You just know that Jane Smith over there, who crushed you 6-0, 6-0, who's turning pro next year, is elite, and she's going to be in the top 100. You know what? I'm going to try and get myself a college admission as a tennis player and be the best high school tennis player I can be. And I'm not saying those systems are right. Okay, that's not what I'm arguing. I'm saying that's what it is. You're in a pro system now. And as being a part of a pro system, you got to assess those things and figure those things out. Because if you don't, you're going to be really, really unhappy when you could be wildly happy in a place that you belong. Go ahead, Jarek.
No, 100%. And I think that's part of it's just part of the process. You know what I mean? It just is what it is. And you got to develop and change things and get with the times and do your homework and all those other kind of things. Like, otherwise you're going to be the one, behind the 8 ball. You can see it with the guys that have embraced the transfer portal, whether they like it or not.
No one like I don't, as a fan of college sports, I don't think it's the most enjoyable thing. But I see it through a coach's lens. The average fan, I tell this to people all the time, which is the 99%. They are not us, okay? The average fan who wants to talk on WFAN, who wants to complain, who wants to laugh, who wants to drink beer, who doesn't really, just plays Madden. Those people love it. This Indiana winning, okay, which I love too, by the way, Miami versus Miami, that was great for TV. The television companies say to themselves, we need more of this.
Yes.
We need more of this, not less. We at the NFL level, we need more of the Chicago Bears emerging out of nowhere. We need more of it. We don't the Chiefs and the Patriots
they pushed for parity, right? But you're just creating less of that.
Well, you're creating less of it at the highest level.
That's what I mean.
You're creating, well, at your level, the Big Ten, SEC, you've created more of it, okay, potentially, if you have the money. At the lower,
come back. That's what it's all going to come back to.
The group of 5, yes, they're screwed, okay? Like, you don't have the money. You know, like, there might be a few exceptions. UConn, if they wanted to be, would be an exception.
That's the other part, Dave. That's what I was just gonna say.
Okay,
schools like UConn, Arkansas, right? Schools where Kentucky, Louisville,
yes,
dude, they could if they wanted, but that market with hoops,
there's not
UCLA. You know what I mean? Like I could go through the Rolodex.
There's not many of them.
Think power basketball programs, right?
Yeah, Kansas, Kansas.
Right? Like where? And look, I think this is a great study for someone to like go through your Division I football programs and match those schools up with like what's better at this school, football or hoops? Which is more of our market? Kansas, hoops, right? I don't think I'm wrong in saying that. You know what I'm saying? Arizona.
Well, Indiana.
Some of these programs, Indiana. Look, Indiana just put themselves in a hell of a category where they've won a national championship now in football and hoops. There's only like 10 teams that have ever done that in the country. Like there's only 10 schools that have ever, and look, a lot of them, some of them are like, hey, we won a football national championship in like 1920. Like
when the UConn, because we do this podcast and all you Connecticut people are just like Indiana people, okay? Yes. We can't do it in football. Even when we win, like we can't do it. We can't do it. We can't do it. Well, now they actually have no excuse because Indiana just did it. And because Indiana is just like UConn, they really are a basketball school. Like that's right.
Yeah,
so
right.
Kansas is the same way. Kentucky's the same way.
Yes,
right,
sir.
So we now like thanks to Signetti and Mark Cuban. Basically, even though Mark Cuban's actually a basketball guy, right?
I know, it's crazy.
But Mark Cuban saw the opportunity in football. He saw that, like, wow, you know what? Like the money in college athletics is for the university is in football. And you know what? If I pour what my resources, instead of pouring it all into basketball, which may or may not get you there, okay, because basketball's less players. It's harder to monopolize players. You know what I mean? Because there's 5. That if I'm a 20-point scorer and someone else brings in another 20-point scorer, I'm out of there, dude. Like
absolutely.
Like it's basketball, dude. I mean that's how it is. So, but yeah, like those things are there, and it's parents. Parents get mad at me, and that's why they run. They not mad at me, like actually mad, but like that's why they run to people who say to them whatever they want to hear. Okay, and when the parents who say to them, "Yeah, let's go to all these national tournaments," and you know what, you're going to get recruited from it. It's bullshit. Okay, it's bullshit. I could tell you on your team, just bring them over to me right now, and I'll just watch them run around and catch balls. And I'll tell you which kids on your team right now are going to be kids that could happen to. I'll tell you right now. Okay. And they'll be like, "What? Oh, come on. Like he's, you gotta watch him. You got to watch him." Yeah. All right. I watch him for 30 minutes. And I'm going to tell you right now, like this guy is who they will look at. This guy is who they will look at. None of you guys are going to get looked at that level. Okay, not yet, at least. I'm not saying that won't change. I'm not saying you're not going to grow 6 inches next year. I'm not saying any of that stuff. All right,
because those things do change.
Yeah, things do change, but you please stop telling me that your doctor told me that you're going to be 6'6". Okay,
Right.
I'm looking
Well,
at
my
your
dad was this tall. Yeah.
I'm looking at your dad. He's 5'10", and your mom is 5'1".
Yep.
Okay, like stop telling me this. So because it's not true. It's not true. Now, if you embrace who you are at that size, now we can talk. Now we can talk because you know what?
You have that self-awareness and you understand what level. Look, Haley just talked about it where, hey, as a sophomore, make that top 10 and have some schools that are reaches and you don't really but as you get closer to, hey, it's time to really look at this. Now you got to dial it in. And here's my top 5. And I've actually been to this school. Like, you got to dial it back and really be your maturity level has to go up. Your self-awareness has to go up. The reality is of, I'm not going to Alabama. I'm not going to Oregon, like maybe an FCS or a D2, and that's a hard process for kids. They just don't get it. I have kids that are, she talked about also, like, if you're going to a school, understand what you're going to, right? Like, they're a top 3 nursing school in Texas. Don't ask me if we have a good nursing program. You should know this.
It's so true, and
it's easy to find out this information now.
People even locally around here, like, how good of an athlete with you? I'm like, I don't really talk about it, like, because I don't really want to get into it, but
because you'll go down. That's talk about a rabbit hole.
Everyone, actually, I'm one of the guys that my son plays basketball with. His father was a great pitcher at Rutgers, and the one guy coaching me, played in the MLB for a little bit. Like when we talk, like, we all know, like that there are, are levels to it,
Yes.
But like when people I say, small school county hurdle record just got broken this past year. Okay. And I went to high school in 1992. That was when I said it. 1992, 33 years. And oh, by the way, that kid actually runs on my brother's track. He coached at Johns Hopkins, my brother, track, and he runs he's a hurdler for Johns Hopkins. Okay, now, and which is Division III. But he could have went a bunch of Division I places. He's an outstanding student. So the point is this. That guy's a regular human, okay? Even though he broke my record, he's 6 feet. He's 175 pounds. You know what size I ran that time at? 6'1", 215 pounds, okay? I was a linebacker running a time of what these guys who are really good regular track kids are, right? So when people are but I went FCS. Right? Because when I went to UConn and they were like, we have Eddie Long, who ran 4.29, was a 10 400-meter dash guy. I'm not as fast as that guy, okay?
Right.
Like, that guy is much faster than me. So, and the other fullback, I was the fullback initially at 6'1", 230. The guy who was starting ahead of me initially, he was 6'2", 255, Derek.
Crazy.
Okay. And I was better. I ended up being a starter because I was more athletic. Like, I was more of I could run the ball. I could do some more athletic type things. But I could tell you, like, he actually had good hands. I'm like, I would catch the ball in the flat, and I'm like, he's pretty good. Like, I was like, he's pretty good, So, and we were friends, like, the dude was a monster. Okay. Literally, like, I always thought he should have went into WWE after he was. I mean, he was a monster, Derek. If he walked into the room, you'd be like, this guy's a fullback? Like, what?
Right.
Like, he was a monster. He was at FCS. Okay. And the reason why he was an FCS player is because in high school, he was really a linebacker. And he came to school as a linebacker. They moved him at UConn, the fullback, because they needed him at fullback, right?
Yeah.
So otherwise, if he was actually a fullback coming out of high school, he probably would have went Division I. You know, that's what FCS was. These guys who should have been maybe Division I in this area, but was like that area, and they're like, and so they didn't, you know, or they were
I've said it to you. I've said it publicly. Like, you know, when I left Sacred Heart and went to Montclair State, like I played with majority of the players I played with at Montclair State were way better than the guys I played with at Sacred Heart. And that was FCS to Division III, and it was just kind of how it was. You know what I'm saying?
And
like
Sacred Heart wasn't
no, it was it was an FCS mid-major, right? It was a non-scholarship type of conference.
And there were levels to that.
Absolutely.
But you're right. What you're really right on with Montclair is, this is 100% true. What Montclair State is, to me, is the kids who were great football players in high school. Great football players. Maybe better than some athletes that athletically that went to a higher level. They might have been better football players. They just, you know, maybe they weren't as fast, okay? Or they were the 6 foot 280 guard, right? But they might have been better than the 6'3" 280 guard, but the 6'3" 280 guard could end up being 6'3" 320, you know, or whatever. So, but that's what makes Montclair State so great, that like they identify that really well. Like, and not that you don't get some freaks here or there, you do, especially now you probably will. But you and not that you don't get transfers from Division I that come back and all those things. But what happens is, that's the majority, is like you get these kids who are really great football players that maybe were missing something, whatever that.
Or you don't know what their situation was, right? Like maybe it's, you know what I mean?
Or academically they weren't good students.
Right.
In the old days, they didn't, around your time period, those kids didn't qualify, some of them. So they didn't qualify, even though Montclair State's a good school. Some of those kids didn't qualify under the old standards.
Right. But some of it too is also like, hey, this is just, I want to stay in state, or I just want to go here, or look, I want to be a teacher, so I might as well go here where I can, you know what I mean? Like, I'm going to be a cop. I'll go do law enforcement, play 4 years of ball. And then, you know what? Like, here we go. Like, some guys just don't want to do that other stuff or be
but very few kids that go D3 don't want to go at a higher level if they could. I mean, even you went to a higher level, so you know it's not like you.
I didn't want to stay.
Came back for circumstances, right?
Like, but I just wanted to get out of state. That was my whole thing. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, I want to get out.
Right. I would say most kids are like that. Most 100%.
Kids. But it's also interesting to see how some of these kids, like, hey, like, all right, if I live like where we live, right, and I go to Montclair, I am going away. You know what I'm saying? Like, for them to go up to North Jersey is away for them, right? Whereas I was like, look, I just want to get out. Like, get me out of state. I don't want to stay in state, you know?
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. And I'm so glad that Nick Saban is
he's really opening a lot of eyes. And this new series, did you see the new series is coming out about him?
I heard a thing coming out.
Yeah, like a whole like behind the scenes of how he did things and whatnot, like all access Nick Saban type gig. Like, I'm excited for that.
I think what's rare about Nick Saban is, number one, he's the greatest coach of all time in college football. Number two, very rarely does the greatest coach of all time decide, I'm going to go and become an announcer as a twilight, because he's just such a high energy guy. His wife just is like, please just get out of the house, you know? Like, so
go do something.
Yeah, do something, please, because he must be such a
oh yeah, I can
he's
imagine.
That guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He's that go guy.
Well, she's just not used to that. You know what I mean? Like, she hasn't had him. Like, 100%.
Like, even the stories back to when his father sounds like he was that guy. You know,
right? Ran a gas station or whatever.
Right,
it was.
Like he was a businessman. Like his father was always. He was coaching youth football. It was just a different time. He had different opportunities, but he was that person too, you know? Yep. So Nick is like that. So it's very rare to have a guy like that now become an announcer, and also know that ain't nobody going to fire Nick Saban for something he says. So Nick Saban has the freedom to say what, even more than Pat McAfee, to be honest, even more, because he earned it as a coach, right? The freedom to say pretty much however he sees it. And he doesn't blow people's spots up that much, because he's he's a very respectful guy.
Right.
But, because that's not. But when he gets on a tangent, meaning he gets annoyed with something, I just see it turning in his head. Like I could just see it. Like it's almost like I've been wanting to say this for 30 years. And now that I am not a coach anymore and most likely never going to coach again, I am going to say this because no one can hold me the task on it. You know what I mean? And it's great, dude. Like to me, the combination of Pat McAfee, who's wild and says whatever he wants, whether you like him or don't like him, Nick Saban, who is the old coach, who's the greatest. It's like having Bear Bryant on the stage. Like Bear Bryant died right after he got done coaching.
Right.
You would have loved to have Bear Bryant sit up there and tell you what he thought, or Bobby Bowden sit up there and tell you what he thought about that Paterno. Never happened. It never, ever happened. Urban Meyer does a little bit, but he's measured. That's just who Urban kind of is. Saban, to me, it's like having like Bear Bryant up there, or Newt Rockne sitting up there telling you everything, or Lou Holtz sitting up. Well, actually, that's what made Lou Holtz great when he was on there. Lou Holtz did that too, to be honest. That's what made that show so great when Lou Holtz was on there, because Lou Holtz would just say it. Like, he would just say it. Like, I'm tired of this. I remember when he walked off when him and Mark May were arguing.
Yes. And that was the end of that. Because that's what they used to go back and forth like that, which was great.
He would get so tired of Mark May, and obviously Mark May's a Hall of Famer, and he's great. I mean, Mark May
was good too.
He was great. Like, what happened to Mark May, by the way? Is he retired, or
I don't know, man. Some of these guys you just see kind of go and they're out.
Gone,
once ESPN starts clearing house, dude, it's like, oh shit.
But those two were. But that's what it reminds me of now. Like ESPN with Corso being like, Corso was great for the show, but it was different. Saban brings a whole different element to it, and it's just I don't.
He's rejuvenated that whole thing, and Kurt Herbstreit says the same thing with McAfee since they've brought it in. His perspective on things of like how he does, like it's just like Corso took that from one thing to another, like, and then they all did that as a group. But now they've they've continued to evolve, and for a while it was kind of like getting a little stagnant. Now this whole element of like bringing McAfee in, and now Saban, like. That show's a must watch on every Saturday if you can. Like, absolutely. You know what I mean? And then Kurt goes and does his game, and, coach is going to do whatever, and McAfee's going to do their thing. Like, I just like that it's a new school feel to it, and it's awesome.
They mixed the both Kirk Herbstreit, Chris Fowler. I mean,
these guys are knowledgeable. They understand it, right? Like, they get it. They they bring on their guests. They do the field goal kicks. There's an element for everybody to kind of like.
I have to tell you something funny
to it.
So this is. I mean, it's like I said. Like, I don't really get to on the show. I talk about it a little bit more, but I really don't have that many people to talk about my experiences with. But when I was an agent, me and my buddy Dan Smith, who was an agent with me. And we used to go, and we were great at it. He was when we were back in the day. This guy was so good at, like, when you would go out and you would go out to a nightclub, and you had that friend.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was you, but that friend, no matter
it was me.
It was you. Okay, no matter what the situation was, he would know how to get us into the club. Okay,
yeah. Always had that guy.
So that's who he was, right? So we would go when we were recruiting players, and we would go to all these schools, all of them, like these big schools. Like we were, even though we were kind of undeterred people. We would hunt big guns, even though we would get turned down. And we knew a lot of them. I knew a lot of them from NUC. Okay. Right. So I could always at least get in and talk to them. They didn't obviously most of the time go with us, but some of them did. But like, we could always get in. And so we really got in so well that we also, because of the recruiting thing, I knew so many of the sports information people. We would get on the field for a lot of these games. Okay, this is going to sound crazy, but we would be on the field at some of these big games. I can't remember all of them, but I remember we were at one of these games. I can't remember which one it was, but Kirk Herbstreit and Chris Fowler were on the side, are standing right next to us. Okay, and I didn't know this at the time, but they would, when they were get done with game day, they a lot of times if they weren't announcing that game, they would go and maybe watch like the first quarter of the game that they were at for game day, and then they would go on a plane and go to the game they were going to announce at night.
Right, like Herbstreit sometimes is on the other side of the country, for Christ's sakes, and then
Correct.
he's, hey, I gotta go. You know,
So
not to mention that on his own, he's now doing Thursday night NFL football, which I love. Right, I think he's so good.
He's great.
I just think he's a great announcer to begin with, dude. Like, I really like what we get to hear, like the guys that are there now. But that whole, I just used to be in awe of like, do the show in the morning, hop on a plane. Now he's here. I'm like, how the hell did he get on the West Coast? Like he was just in freaking Ohio, you know?
Right. So what we happened to see them at in these like 2 or 3 years time period, a handful of times. So they kind of like, they didn't know who the hell we were, but they're like,
right, but they're seeing the same faces.
Like, why are we seeing these guys at a few places? So we were just talking, and Dan was like, hey, because he was just kind of, that's how his personality was. Yes. And he's like, do you guys like literally sit here? He's like, yeah, we like to watch to see like at least the first quarter of the game that we were here for, spent all this time setting up for.
Talking about, analyzing, like breaking down, all this other shit. Like we might as well see what the hell we're talking about.
Right, before we hop on a plane and we go to the next thing, and we hop on a private plane and we're out of there. And so they were kind of just explaining it to us. It was just fascinating. It was actually fascinating. But Chris Fowler was, when I was a kid, this is crazy. There used to be a program called Scholastic Sports America, okay, on ESPN. And Chris Fowler was the host of Scholastic Sports America in the late 80s, maybe up until when I was in high school even, but late 80s definitely. And he would go around the country and find the best athletes and interview them and talk, and it was the greatest show, Derek.
So cool.
It was the greatest show.
The show actually had the word scholastic in it.
It was called Scholastic.
As in, like, it mattered.
America. It was the greatest show. So to me, it's like, I see him. He still looks young. I don't know how old he is. He must be like 60 maybe. But he was like, probably fresh out of college and doing that show. And for me to see that he's still around almost 40 years later.
I know, it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's amazing. And, but yeah, anyway, that's so I like when I like, it's hard for me. One of the things I've always found the hardest part about all this is it's always been hard for me to share with parents exactly the depth of, without them thinking I'm full of shit. You know what I'm saying? There's no way this guy could have experienced these things.
They just don't get it. I
know. It's because it's hard because even though you can go on YouTube and watch the films on things, it's still hard. It's just like, I hate using this analogy, but most guys who don't get girls do not think guys that do get girls are lying. Does that make sense, Derek?
100%.
So if you were talking to, like, let's say a friend of yours from high school that was cool, but like didn't really get many, like just never like evolved and was not able to get, and you're talking about girls you were whatever, and
sure, buddy.
You see their face and you realize,
and you're like,
why am I bother talking to them?
Yeah, like you don't
understand.
Like you say you know what's going on, but you don't. You know what I mean? Like all that.
Yeah, you realize this is just stupid. Like,
I was always the guy that you could bring anywhere, and I'd be okay. Like, they're like, that's cool. We're going here. Don't know one freaking person we're going into this party at or the bar we're going to meet people. No clue. You know what? If you're disappearing because you're going to go do your thing, just understand, like, I'll be good. Talk to you in the morning. Let me know you're alive. That's all I need to know. Right? Yep. Like, if you got to do the quote unquote Irish goodbye, buddy, don't Don't hurt your chances by making sure I'm okay. I'm good. I got it. I get it. Go do your thing. Look, you always had those people that you could call, and it's, it's 9:00, nothing's popped off yet, and all of a sudden something popping off an hour away. You had that boy you could call and be like, buddy, we're going. All right, cool. Like, let's go figure it out and let's roll, and understand that if you went and did that and went off on your own, he'd be okay. He's not the guy that's like, buddy, where are you? I don't know where you're, like, ruining your chances. Like those Debbie Downers. I'm like, buddy, you can't survive for a couple hours on your own at an amazing setting. Like, go disappear, come back. Like, it's like, all right, dude. Like, you got to know, you have to know that crew and surround yourself with those guys. But look, I had those guys that were on the Rolodex of like, hey, dude, let's go. And they were your ride or dies. Like, and then look, like that situation happens. And 2 days later, you're like, dude, what happened? Like, where'd you go? Like,
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm like, you know what? Don't worry about it. Let's go do it again tonight.
No, it's
like,
great.
What was the thing you told me to look at or use yesterday that you were using? Notebook LM. I thought I wrote it down, dude. I definitely wrote it down. Don't know where it is. Notebook LM. Got it. All right. I'm going to dive into that a little bit today.
It's really cool.
We don't have anything tomorrow. Friday, we're back at 10 a.m. with former TCNJ head coach Casey Goff, who is now, I believe he's at St. Vincent's College, Division III. So we'll talk to him on Friday morning.
All right, that sounds good, man.
Yeah, buddy. Next week, we're good too. Next week, we got some good stuff lined up.
We made softball work. I had to listen to you guys talk at first to start to gather in my head where I wanted to go with it.
February 4th, man. Tracy Joyner is joining us, the head women's soccer coach at the University of Oregon. So that should be really freaking cool.
That's cool.
And if I'm not mistaken, I believe her husband is the head coach of University of Michigan basketball. So
that's amazing. I don't know how
that's a hell of a relation. It's a hell of a power couple. I'll tell you that much, dude.
That's amazing.
Jordan loves them.
What's that?
I said Michael Jordan and Nike loves those two. Jesus, holy hell! Like, woo!
No doubt.
And I gotta watch Harbaugh's intro presser today. I didn't see it yesterday. I saw some clips, but I'd like to watch the full thing.
I saw the players came out for him.
Dude, Winston was there. Like a bunch of them were sitting there. Tiki was there. Tiki Barber was there. I think he's an easily likable guy.
Hopefully those guys don't get cut.
Oh, yeah, right. 100%.
But actually that's smart of them to come there so they don't get themselves cut.
Absolutely. At least, hey, fake it till you get there.
No. See, that's what I'm saying. That's the thing about pro athletes, right? Like people don't understand that they learn certain things over those years. That's why in recruiting, the high school kids are at a disadvantage. Like when you're a man, you start to become a man. Like an adult Jameis Winston is much different than a 21-year-old Jameis Winston. Like he stands there, he greets Harbaugh. Like an 18-year-old Jameis Winston wouldn't have done that, and that's what makes it hard.
No.
That's what makes it hard in recruiting
to understand that
for the high school athletes versus these college kids. It really just, a smart college kid, dude, they understand things that
and that's why the appeal to have a portal guy over a high school guy, dude. You're getting that maturity, man. You're getting that maturity.
You listen to the way Mendoza talks and you're like, oh, geez.
Oh my God. I know. It's okay.
Like you got to train your kid to be like that level of maturity. Like, but that guy's going to succeed with that level of maturity. Like,
right. Because it's on display. Haley just talked about it too. Like, show me you can have a conversation.
It's hard. And I didn't know. I kind of threw that out there. I wasn't sure if she was going to, but when I started seeing her shake her head and stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm right. So
yeah, 100%.
Because you know me, I throw it out there. If I have a hunch on things, and then.
But I think her small school background, all of those things, you win with people. And for people that come from small schools, they understand that, if I want something done, I either have to do it myself or I have to talk to numerous people to get it done. right?
Yep.
Like at those higher levels, it's, oh, you just send it to this person and it's this and it's that. Like, no, dude, you got to have those personable skills, which is why, you got to know the coaches that you're getting recruited by and what makes them tick too. Like, again, do your homework. So
Absolutely.
awesome.
All right,
Good
bro.
stuff, buddy. Hey, stay
Yep.
warm.
Oh, God.
Shit's brutal, man. Woo!
Brutal.
And a snowstorm coming this weekend. Woohoo!
Yeah, I guess our tryout could end up having a problem.
Possibly, dude, for what they're calling for. I don't know. I think our last I saw, our area is like 6 to 12. I mean, obviously, we're a couple days away, so we might actually see some real snow.
I might have to make a call by Friday if it's that bad, but it's going to be that bad.
We'll figure it out.
All right, man. Have a great day.
All right, buddy. Later.
All right, later.